That's what it make you do it. It make you love it, and you'll be what they say, lost in the sauce. Your whole life will revolve around this here.
This is an issue we can't cover up anymore because it's right in our front yards, and I feel this is our Ebola. This is going to kill way more people than these infectious diseases we allocate all these resources for. And this is going to ruin way more lives than many of these diseases.
You notice I'm missing parts of my fingers? That's from shooting drugs.
Because this has been a big part of my life in dealing with children, adolescents, and adults with drug and alcohol problem, because as you can imagine, utilizing these substances puts people in situations where harm becomes an issue. They make choices where they get in cars where they're intoxicated.
You have to draw back on it to get it registered.
They go to places or encounter people that they shouldn't, end up being assaulted. So you can imagine they end up in this trauma bay, quite frequently intoxicated. And so I basically kind of almost felt a little overconfident with that. And I felt that in dealing with my children, because of my experiences, I would be so well prepared to recognize drug problems. And I always say my aha moment was about 3.5 years ago. And what happened was I was called in to see a young man with an abscess. And one thing is, as people start to use intravenous drugs and do a technique called skin popping, where they inject the drug into their subcutaneous tissue, they can develop abscesses. And we quite frequently get called in to see and treat these abscesses surgically and with antibiotics. So my aha moment was I got called into the room, and immediately I walk in, I see this remarkably charming, eloquent young man who was dressed in a polo shirt and khakis, and was extremely well spoken and intelligent. And as we discussed things further, turns out he graduated from one of the good high schools here in town, and he was at one of our beloved institutions, and he actually had a 3.97 GPA in journalism, of all things. And as I'm talking to this kid, I realized this nice young man is a heroin addict. And he basically said he'd been using it for about 6 months and really couldn't really remember how it all started. Now, to tell you a little bit about the other drugs, when we have young people and even adults come in and they have something terrible happen in their lives because of these drugs, I always have a talk with them. I'm always completely upfront with them, and I explain to them, you killed your friend because you were intoxicated. Your girlfriend is tremendously injured because of your choices with this, and every single one of them, when you talk with them, you can see this little period of like a moment, a little light where they recognize there's a problem, and a little bit of hope where they realize they need to change their lives. So when we go back to this kid, the first thing I said to him is, I said, you know you're going to flunk out of school. And he just looks down at the ground and he goes, I know. And then I say, you know you're going to die. And he just looks down in complete and utter hopelessness and says, I know, where he'd already just succumbed to this, and there was no hope and no fight. And this changed my whole belief about these drugs. And where before it seemed like it was a stereotypical type of person, now I just saw, it seems like one of our future leaders of our country now just got drawn into a world that 20 years ago he would never have even thought of. And I realized we had a severe problem.
It's one of those drugs where you either love it or you hate it. And when I say that, I mean, for the most part, it's such a euphoric feeling, and that you don't want to do nothing but the drugs. That's all you want, and it'll ruin your life. Like wasting it, I tell you.